Hello and welcome to another Doctor's Assistant video. Today I'm doing a review of the Axon action figure that I got from York Comic Con. I got it for a reasonable price, or the price that I was willing to pay for it, which was £8, because every other basically action figure that was there they were in like plastic bags, like little baggies and that, and the thing were like, they were all like 20 something quid, and it's like for one single figure. Like, I could imagine, I could understand if they were in boxed and that, and in good condition and all that, but not that they weren't in good condition, it's just that, as I say, without the box, that immediately devalues the action figure. It's much like retro gaming collecting, from what I understand. If you get an N64 game, say, without the box and manual, then it's worth less. And obviously, slightly above that would be an NES cartridge with a box, but without the manual, but the box is also quite damaged. And then, up from that would be, factory sealed with the manual in mint condition sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I mainly purchased this one because I never got the original Axon 3-pack type set, which came with the Claws of Axos set, which came with Joe Grant as well as the Brigadier. Now, bearing in mind I've already got Joe Grant from the Three Doctors set and or pack at that point, as well as the fact that I already got, I think, the Brigadier from that set as well. So I always thought this one was a bit odd that they released this after that, because the only figure that people would really want would be the Axon. So, and that. Saying that though, the Axon, detail wise, is phenomenal. Like, it just looks like the Axon from Claws of Axos, which yeah, like, they were always really nicely designed anyway. Really nicely designed with like the sort of white costume, but with all this like engraved gold and that, which I always really liked. And then they've even got the, obviously, hands, which are sculpted to be painted even gold as well, which is awesome. And the head is just phenomenal. I also purchased this because I have an idea for a figure adventure sort of monster that this could be. My own original idea of a creature maybe, but yeah, yeah, really cool sort of sculpt, like head sculpt, as well as the eyes look really menacing, as do, and that, and as I say, the sculpting is really nice on the figure generally. And then as for articulation, it's very standard humanoid. Sort of articulation, 360 head articulation. The weird thing is though with this figure, because it's a more recent classic series action figure, the arms do go up at there like 90 degrees and that. A lot of older action figures, so say some of the more like some of the David Tennant action figures, don't do that. It's not until like later versions of figures, like say the War Doctor, I think, also has that joint, as does the Brigadier and the Curator and some other figures. Knee joints, I don't think they have any articulation in the feet and that, and they go out as well, sides. I think there's waist articulation as well, so I think, yeah, there is waist articulation, but it's very stiff and that. But overall, I mean, it's a decent figure, like, and that, but I guess that's maybe why they didn't sell it singly, because what is it, having just this figure, it's a bit dull really. It's just a bit on its own, but with other figures, and especially other figures from the episode, so it made sense to package it with, as I say, like Joe Grant and the Brigadier. I think they were, as I say, packaged with the original Claws of Axos pack, but I think as I say, I think that probably released after the Three Doctors one, which, as I said before, I think is a bit odd considering they'd already done the Brigadier and Joe Grant in that set. So, you know, the only reason to get the Claws of Axos one would be for this figure, but selling this on its own, you might not really want to get this one, or there'd be less people who knew this figure and that just from Claws of Axos, because I think the Axons only appear in Claws of Axos, so, you know, and that, so I think basically what I mean is having the ensemble of Joe Grant and the Brigadier as figures as well as this means that it's got wider appeal, like, you know, like people remember the companion and the allies of the Doctor and that a bit more than maybe an enemy from a Doctor Who episode that was only an enemy that was only in the one episode even. Overall, yeah, the detail's good, and that, I think that really sort of stands out to me. Articulation is decent, sort of slightly above average for a Doctor Who action figure, I think, with some of the articulation. However, it could be better in certain areas, and I think for £8, £8, I think it's well worth buying. If you can find it cheaper, then obviously buy it by all means. But if it's more than sort of £10, I think you could easily miss this one. I think below £10 would be best. Any more than that, and I think the person who's selling you this would be ripping you off at that point. But yeah, I think this is a well-earned sort of, you know, 6 or a 7 action figure out of 10. It's just, you know, sort of average sort of figure, really. There's no stand out about it besides the fact that it looks really cool, that it's in gold, really. I think that's, for me, the thing that's stood out to me, you know, because obviously you don't really get humanoid characters that are sort of painted differently, like, you know, like if we got like a series 10 figure of the dude from Oxygen who was like a blue dude, like, I'd buy that because I find it fascinating having blue characters and that are just meeting other characters with different sort of skin shades or shades of skin, because for action figures that makes it very interesting, because they're definitely very eye-catching in that respect. So yeah, it's sort of 6 out of 10, 6 or 7 out of 10 for me. Thanks for watching, comment, rate and subscribe.